Okay, we don't normally get, I told you, we don't normally get to do this one because it usually comes up Bein Azmanim, but, okay, page 11, page 1112, 1112. So, Vezos Haberachah asher berach Moshe isha Elokim es b'nei Yisrael lifnei Moshe. This is the bracha that Moshe, the man of God, blessed the Jewish people before he died. Now, I want to ask you a question. Imagine you're in a classroom and you see a guy cheating, and you snitch on him, right? And he gets in trouble and he gets a 0 on the test. Then right after the test, he's walking out in the hall, guy get a 0. Then you come up to him and you say to him, hi Tom, can I borrow $20 from you? What do you think your reaction would be if this was the guy who had just gotten you in trouble and now he's asking you for a favor? Can I ever get a ride home? Maybe I could have half your sandwich. What do you think would happen? You'd, tar and feather the guy. The last thing you're going to do is you're going to do him a favor. This guy just got you in trouble. I was always of the opinion that anybody who got caught cheating on a test in school, they deserve to get in. If they got caught by the teacher, they deserved it, right? You're a schlemiel if you get caught. There are enough ways to do it without getting caught, and you're just inept if you got caught. We had one guy who actually took his watch. In those days, I don't ever see a watch that has a little window on it for the date. And a guy actually managed to get a crib in there and just kind of switch the watch, and they're like A, B, B, A would show up in the window over there. The ingenuity was unbelievable. I don't know. That's why our class, we produce a lot of electrical engineers. But so you said the last thing you're going to do for somebody who gets you upset. Technological whiz is the green thing up there. Imagine he comes up to you after you got in trouble. He says, "Hey Sam, can I do you a favor? Can I have a blessing?" What kind of blessing you think you're going to give this guy who just got in trouble? I'll give you a blessing, all right. I'll give you a blessing. You're going to learn some vocabulary words that you didn't know existed. So Moshe Rabbeinu, look at Moshe Rabbeinu's behavior. Vezos Beracha asher berach Moshe isha Elokim es b'nei Yisrael lifnei Moshe, right before he's about to die. Why is he about to die? What causes that Moshe Rabbeinu is going to die and not go into the land of Israel? It was the Jewish people. It was when the Jewish people complained about not having water, and Moshe Rabbeinu then hit the rock and said, so who got him to the point, agitated to the point where he hit the rock and then got punished? It was the Jewish people. Yet these very same Jewish people, right before he's about to die, what does Moshe Rabbeinu do? He gives them a bracha. So you learn something about Moshe Rabbeinu. Again, what was Moshe Rabbeinu's main trait? He's humility. Part of humility is being willing to overlook. You're willing to overlook. You're willing to overlook the wrongs that somebody did to you. And here Moshe Rabbeinu goes to the opposite extreme. They were the ones the cause of his death. That's why the Torah emphasizes lifnei Moshe. They were the cause of his death. And Moshe Rabbeinu, in spite of that, what does he do? He gives them a blessing. He gives a blessing to the Jewish people. So it gives you an idea. And again, what they did to him is a lot worse than getting somebody messed over on a test. They caused his death. And they caused he won't be able to go into the land of Israel, which he wanted more desperately than anything else. And could you imagine traveling? Can you imagine traveling? There's a great movie playing in the theater. And then you travel 2 hours, you drive down to the theater, and at the last minute I say, you can't go in. You got to stand outside while everybody else goes into the theater. Moshe Rabbeinu's desire to go into Israel is a lot stronger than our desire to go into a theater. And he's not allowed to go in because of the Bnei Yisrael. And in spite of that, he overcomes it and he gives the bracha to the Bnei Yisrael. Did you ever hear of the Stei Chemed? The Stei Chemed, I doubt you heard of it, very few. It's a little more obscure. The Stei Chemed was an encyclopedic work on the entire Talmud that was written without computers. It was written by somebody named Rabbi Medini, who lived, I think, in the late 1800s, early 1900s. No computers, no nothing. And he wrote an entire digest on the Shas. It's a multi-volume digest with no computers and just pure Torah knowledge. So what happened with this Yeshivat Medini, he was a young man studying in a kolo yeshiva type of situation, And he showed that at a young age he had a lot of talent. And there was another young man who was extremely jealous because Rabbi Yeshivat Medini was getting this a lot of attention, a lot of prestige, and this other guy was very jealous of him. There was an Arab cleaning lady, and this guy paid her off to besmirch his reputation. He was always the first guy to the yeshiva, the first guy to the Beis Medrash. So the next morning, Yeshivat Medini came to the Beis Medrash, and she was there, and she started screaming, "Get away from me, don't touch me," that sort of thing. A crowd gathered, and it made him look very bad. So with no choice, he was very embarrassed. He was put to shame, and he left town, and he went to a nearby town and sat in his own shul learning Torah by himself. In the meantime, the head of the kollel, he knew that he was innocent, but there's nothing he could do about it, and he fired this Arab lady because he knew that she was setting him up. Okay, about 2 or 3 months later, every day he's sitting learning. The door to his little shul opens up, and it's the Arab cleaning lady. And she comes in and she says, "Hi, do you remember me?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, after you left, the boss fired me because he knew that I was making up a story, and I decided, and I had enough money from what the guy paid me off, but now I'm out of job and I'm out of money. I was wondering if you could intercede on my behalf to get me my job back." Oh, she said, I know, and I'll make a deal with you. If you intercede on my behalf, I will make a public announcement that I set you up and that the whole thing was a false rumor, a false accusation. So he said, "One sec, I have to think." And he said, "I will intercede for you on one condition. I will intercede on condition that you never tell anybody that what you did was false, that you never go and admit publicly that was a false accusation." I said, "Why not?" So he explained to her, because there has already been one desecration of God's name. That people think he did what he did is already a desecration. That a Torah scholar would go assault the lady, that's already a desecration of God's name. But that now she'll go and make a public announcement, and then they'll see that the other guy was desecrated God's name by accusing him falsely. He said that I'll take it on the cuff. As long as you don't say anything, then I'll intercede and get you. And he was willing to overlook what she did to him. And then he said later, as soon as she left, he felt that there was the gates of wisdom opened up in his mind, because obviously he was willing to go the extra, what do you call it, for Hashem's honor. And after that, he wrote this encyclopedic work called the Stei Chabad. But that's a trick in life, is to be willing to overlook. That's a sign. Now, I think did we speak about Rosh Hashanah, that the Gemara says, Kol ha-mavir al midosav mavirin lo al kol pshav. Did we speak about that? Did we mention that? The Gemara says, and the Sharei Tshuva of Rabbeinu Yonah says, what can we do nowadays going into Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, as a special merit? Everybody wants, listen, we all know we got some flaws. What merit is there? It says the greatest merit is for a person to be willing to overlook the wrongs that are done to him. If you're willing to overlook the wrongs that people do to you, Hashem is willing to overlook your wrongs as well, our wrongs as well, our averos. And a person's slate is wiped clean. Don't get excited. It's hard. It's hard. It means the guy cuts ahead of you in line. And it means if your wife says something to you that got you upset. And it means if your father-in-law came for an extended visit, right, and he consumed more than you expected him to, and it cost you money. There are a lot of issues in life. There are a lot of things that happen. If a person is willing to overlook, then Hashem overlooks his misdeeds, number one. Number two, the Torah emphasizes over here that the bracha is before his death. Lifnei Moshe. Do we ever find an example of this in the Torah? Anything else in Torah that does it remind you of? A bracha before death. Yaakov Avinu gives a bracha before he dies. Who else? Yitzchak Avinu gives a bracha before he dies. Said, I don't know when I'm going to die, but I give Yaakov and Esav a bracha. What's the connection between the bracha and before death? You give a bracha before you die. So the Mepharshim explained, before a person dies, your neshama is, the soul is getting closer to that world. And a person senses that he's on the way out, and the family gathers, and they don't know exactly how much time he has. The neshama is at a loftier level at that point. before death, and therefore there's a greater potency to the bracha. Therefore, the brachas that we find in the Torah, there's no accident that the brachas we find in the Torah are very close to a person's death, because at that point, the neshama is already kind of got one foot in both worlds, and so to speak. And since it's got a foot in that world as well, it's not 100% literal, but it's got some connection to the world of truth now. Therefore, the bracha is going to be a more potent bracha. That's one of the reasons that's one of the reasons for the bracha right before death. And number three, we find Moshe Rabbeinu all through the Chumash. What does it sound like was happening between him and the Jewish people? Quite a few times. A lot of kind of harsh, kind of sharp, a little bit of criticism, a little bit of, guys, come on, you can be better than that sort of thing. Yet here before he dies, he gives them a bracha. So one of the ideas here is, sometimes anybody who's ever played any sort of sports, you got a coach, and the coach is ripping you constantly. Why is he doing that? Why is the coach ripping you constantly? He's trying to bring out the best in you, trying to push you more. After the game and you win, then the coach is all hugs and kisses. But up until that point, and it depends. It's tricky in life. Some people are motivated by that. Some people are put off by that. Some people are motivated by constantly being bashed, and some people are motivated more by a little bit of positive encouragement. Moshe Rabbeinu was trying to bring out the excellence of the Jewish people. And as a parent, by the way, you have to know that also your own kids. One kid could respond better to a little pushing. There's no one size fits all. That's a big mistake parents make. Some kids don't respond to that at all. With a little bit of encouragement goes a long way for some people. Other people say, I don't want to hear the fluff. Tell me what I'm doing wrong so I can push myself more. It depends what the area is. Moshe Rabbeinu has pushed the Jewish people to strive for excellence. Now that he's ready to die and he's going to depart from the Jewish people, at that point, Moshe Rabbeinu is ready to give them a bracha. At that point, Moshe Rabbeinu gives them a blessing, which is to state the greatness of the Jewish people. But first, is all along was because he's got the job. He's the coach, the ultimate coach. Now that he's about to die, so he gives them a bracha stating their excellence. Okay, number one. Number two, take a look at the next pasuk. Now watch this. Vayomer Hashem mi Sinai ba v'zorach mi seir lamo. Hashem came from Sinai. V'zorach mi seir lamo. How does the article translate it? In France, they turn afraid. Shown forth from Seir, Hofia mehar paran, from the mount of Paran, v'asabir v'os kodesh. Mimino eish das lamo. From his right hand is the fiery Torah, the fire of Torah. Okay, so I'm sure you guys have probably heard. That's a contradiction in terms right there. I'm sure you probably heard. So there's a famous medrash that when Hashem was going to give the Torah, so he went around to the other nations first and offered them the Torah. So he went to to Ammon and Moab. Said to Ammon and Moab, would you accept the Torah? They said to Hashem, what's written in the Torah? They said, well, you can't be immoral. You can't be immorality. I mean, our ancestor Lot was in a cave with his daughters. That's where we come from. That's called incest. Maybe in Tennessee it's called marriage, but here it's called incest. And our whole essence is immorality. We can't have a Torah that says not to be immoral. Okay, so he goes to the sons of Esav. What does it say in the Torah? It says don't murder. Don't murder? Are you kidding? Right? Our bracha from Yitzchak, he gave a bracha to Esav, Haberachah, you're going to live by the sword. I can't have a Torah that says don't murder, don't kill. You can't have that's our essence. That's what we live for that. Let's take it outside. We'll settle this out. That's Esav. Come on. That's Esav, the fist. That's Esav. I met a gang member once in Chicago. The guy was a gang member of a gang. I don't know if the Latin Kings or whatever. He was a Jewish guy, but he was a gang member. The Latin Kings are the what do you call what's those guys? No, the guys with what do they call the blood? Yeah, was that the blood? How did you do it? The guy showed me. I was really impressed too. Now people will think, isn't that how you do it? One the Bloods, the Crips. I don't know what this is pre-Bloods. This is there were the Latin Kings, and there was something else. I don't know. Every time you saw that on an old school building. I saw their graffiti. I always got the chills. Let's get out of here real quick. It was they were the Latin Kings. I forgot what the other one was. Anyway, so I asked him what I don't know how he was a Jewish guy. I knew his brother, who he once hit over in the face with a baseball bat. But they had some beef, and so I said to him, "What do you guys do for entertainment on a Saturday night?" He said, "I don't know. We go out, drinking, carousing, and every once in a while, well, sometimes we'll have a rumble." Right? That's when that was the joy. The joy is having a rumble. Right? That's Esav. We have a rumble. Go fight. Yeah, that's Esav. So Hashem says, "You want the Torah?" He says, "What's that? No, murder. That's not for us." So he goes to Ishmael, goes to the Ishmaelites. What does it say in the Torah? Don't steal. Don't steal. You kidding? We live on stealing. That's our essence, is stealing. We can't have that. So then he gives it to the Jewish people. So they often ask, why didn't he ask the Jewish people, you want the Torah? What does it say in the Torah? Imagine the Jewish people. What does it say in the Torah? You're not allowed to buy wholesale. Forget it. We can't have a Torah like that. Well, how am I supposed to? Jew buying retail? Are you kidding? Why didn't he ask the Jewish people? It's a good question, right? The Medrash says that doesn't mean that he actually offered it to them. He wasn't offering it to them. But according to some of the commentators, he was offering them the 7 mitzvos. And if they would have taken on the 7 mitzvos as Torah, the 7 Noachide laws as Torah, then they would be receiving reward at a different level, and they would receive the influence of Torah, of the 7 mitzvahs. It would affect them differently. They didn't accept it that way. They accepted it as, you got to do the 7 mitzvahs. So there's a completely different connection to them. The Jewish people, God didn't ask us. He didn't ask the Jewish people because we were the ones who are meant to get the Torah all along, the Torah of 613. Okay, so if you take a look at the word parad. Now that word parad, first of all, Seir, second line, last word. Seir is Esav. That's the tribe, that's Esav. He lived in Har Seir. And the word Seir comes from Sa'ar, which is hair. He was hairy. Remember, Esav was hairy. And Paran is Yishmael, Rashi says. Now, what's the word Paran got to Yishmael? Now I'm going to show you something. This will give you the goosebumps. Turn back to Parshas Lech Lecha, Perek 16:12. Keep the finger on the place here. 16:12. And if you don't, it's just so, it's so today. 16:12, page 70. Now, this is the episode where Hagar, who is Sarah's maidservant, she's pregnant, or she's going to get pregnant, and she's running away from Sarah after she marries Avram, and she meets angels in the desert. Page 70. She meets angels in the desert. And the angel says to her, take a look, 3 lines from the bottom on page 70. Vayomer la malach Hashem. The angel of Hashem says to her, Hina chara, you're going to get pregnant. V'yaladet ben, you're going to have a son. V'kara shmo Yishmael, you're going to name him Ishmael. Ki shama Hashem es anich, Hashem has heard your suffering. There's actually a medrash that says he's called Yishmael. Pirkei the Rebbe Elazar says, you know why he's called Yishmael? It's this futuristic thing, Yishma. Here, it's because Hashem has heard. But the word Yishmael is really future. Hashem will hear. And the Medrash says that in the end of days, the descendants of Yishmael are going to torment the Jewish people, and the Jewish people will daven, and Yishmael, Hashem will then hear our tefillah, and they'll bring the ultimate redemption. That's what the Medrash says. Okay? So
that's right now. It's
certainly, so any similarities to current events are purely intentional. And so that's number 1 second. 1 second. This is even more. V'hu para adam. He will be a wild man. The Art Scroll translates it very graphically. He will be a wild ass of a man. Yodo bakol v'yad kobo. His hand will be set on everybody. Everybody set against him. Rashi says he'll be a listim. He'll be a bandit. There you have the idea why they don't want to accept the Torah, because they're bandits. They're robbers. In their culture, you should know, if you get cheated by an Arab cab driver, your fault. Your fault for being a yugger, allowing yourself to be cheated. And don't be a nerd. You won't get cheated. It's perfectly okay. All's fair in love and cheating. Right? It's your fault for allowing yourself to get deceived. What do you want from me? You leave something on the table and it disappears. Don't leave things on the table; they won't disappear. That's their culture. Now, I want to ask you a question. In Hebrew, in English, let's take English first. If you have a noun and an adjective, what comes first, the noun or the adjective? Guys, you know what a noun is, right? Even I know what a noun is. A participle, I'm not sure about, but a noun, I know. What comes first? Yeah, he's a big man, a good man, a nice man, a strong man. Then adjective comes before the noun. What about in Hebrew? The noun comes before the adjective. Adam tov, Adam yafeh, Adam nechmad, that sort of thing. The adjective, in Hebrew, the noun comes first. Look what Ishmael is described at. V'hu yeh pere Adam, a wild man. 1 second. This is Hebrew. It should say Adam pere. Because first the noun, then the adjective. Why is the adjective coming first over here? He'll be a wild man. This is Hebrew, it's the opposite. The answer is, it's not. Says Rav Hirsch. Pere is the noun. Adam is the adjective. That means, what is the essence of Ishmael? He's a wild. That's what he is. That's the noun. What kind of wild? A human wild, as opposed to a leopard wild or a cougar wild. You understand the difference in how you structure it? He's not a wild man. He looks like a human being, but look at the behavior. Look at the entire culture. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no law and order. There's spontaneous, just out of controlness, for lack of a better word, because his essence is wild. My wife and I were once sitting in an airport. I think we were in Greece. We had a stopover. We had it in Greece, and the place we were waiting for our flight to America, and the place was just full of descendants of Ishmael. And all of a sudden they call that they're boarding, Air Arabia, headed for something or other. And I'm telling you, literally, you could ask my wife if you don't believe me, it sounded like the stampede. The entire crowd, we're going back about 35 years, but the entire group of people, men, women, children, they just stampeded to the gate, knocked over the chairs. My wife were just sitting there looking like, can you believe this? It just no sign of normal civil behavior. Just like a stampede. So the Torah is telling you that's what paran is. Look at the word paran, gentlemen, back on page 1112. Paran is closely related to the word pere. The same word wild over here is the root of the word paran. That's where they live. And that's why, by the way, if you ever pass by the Arab villages over here, can you tell when you're driving past a Jewish settlement and an Arab settlement? Can you tell? What's the telltale sign?
I use the water tanks.
Okay, they're water tanks versus what do you call it? Mosques. Yeah, where you see the mosques, okay, versus the water tanks. But besides that, what do you see over there?
Buildings are disorganized.
Jews' houses are painted. Arabs' houses are not.
Arabs' houses are actually painted an aqua. There's an off blue green. Ever seen that? They believe that off blue green wards off the evil eye. So they do paint it, but there's no rhyme or reason for the buildings. It's all haphazard and random, because essentially they're nomads. And nomads don't live in an organized city, and this is again the mistake that the Western countries have been making all along in the Israel and the peace negotiations and everything else. The mistake is they think that on the other side there's somebody we have Western democratic rules, and you sign a treaty and you keep the treaty and everybody you negotiate and somebody represents you. And here you have, on the other side, no, there's nothing, nobody to talk to. They can't get past that. That's what the Torah says. That's paran, number one. Number three, look what it says over here, that Moshe kibel Torah bi Sinai. Sorry, the Torah over here says, Vayomer Hashem mi Sinai ba. Hashem came from Sinai to give the Torah to the Jewish people. What does it mean he came from Sinai? I thought he came to Sinai, to the Mount Sinai. What does it mean he came from Sinai? So Rashi says that when the Jewish people arrived at Sinai, have you ever been to a wedding? And you see at the wedding that they bring out the bridegroom, they bring out the chassan, bring out the bridegroom, and then after they bring out the bridegroom, the bride comes out. And when she approaches, as she gets close to the chuppah, the chassan takes a few steps towards her. He takes a few steps towards her as she comes to the chuppah. He takes a few steps towards her. Then they both go to the chuppah, and she walks around him 7 times, the whole ceremony. His taking those steps towards her is the presented over here, because it says Hashem mi Sinai ba. The Jewish people came to the Har Sinai, and Hashem greeted them like a chassan greeting the kala. Because the relationship between God and the Jewish people, metaphorically, is a relationship between the husband and the wife. Hashem is the husband, Jewish people are the wife. And so Hashem came to, in the chuppah, Har Sinai was the wedding. That's why part of the idea of holding the mountain over the heads of the Jewish people is like the chuppah. So next time when you're under the chuppah, you realize that just symbolizes not having any choice. But your free choice has just been taken away, and so the Jewish people, Yitz, could you do me a favor, call a cab for like last time? Let's say 586666666 to the front of Ohr Somayach. 0258666666. Yeah, 5 6s. Thanks. So the what do you call it? Now, if you look at Pirkei Avos, what's the first thing it says in Pirkei Avos? Moshe kibel Torah mi Sinai. Moshe received the Torah from Sinai. That's what mi Sinai means, from Sinai. Now, tell me. Thanks. Moshe kibel Torah mi Sinai. Moshe received the Torah from Sinai. He didn't receive the Torah from Sinai. Who did he receive the Torah from? From Hashem. Why does it say Moshe received the Torah mi Sinai? Why mi Sinai? The answer is, why was Sinai chosen as the mountain? It says Hashem mi Sinai ba. Why was Sinai chosen as the mountain? The most humble one. Of all the high mountains, Hashem said to the high mountains, I'm not giving the Torah on you. I like that mountain. He's the most humble one. So I have a question, Jeremy. So why not give the Torah in a valley?
In a valley?
Yeah, valley's more humble than a small mountain.
It's too low.
Too low. Very good. That means you have to have a little bit of, not pride, as much as a little bit of dignity, self-respect. Can't walk around in soiled clothing, looking like the hippies in the '60s, looking like you just got blown out of an inverted vacuum cleaner. You have to walk around. You have to have a certain self-respect, certain dignity. On the other hand, there's got to be humility. It's the lowest mountain, and therefore, it's chosen as the mountain that the Torah is going to be given. Mountain represents, there's something significant here, but it's the lowest mountain. Moshe kibel Torah bi Sinai. Why was Moshe chosen? Moshe was chosen to receive the Torah mi Sinai because of that Sinai characteristic that Moshe Rabbeinu himself possessed. Mi Sinai. He emulated Sinai. He possessed a Sinai characteristic, which was the humility. Since he had that humility, he was chosen to be the one who's going to receive the Torah. Okay, I have to go early today. Amir Hashem will continue tomorrow. Everybody have a good fast, and just remember, if you want to make the fast easier, a burger at noon will help, but you can't do that.